Good evening, everyone. Today, we're going to explore a critical skill that can make or break your international negotiations and to show you how to master verbal and non-verbal signals for your global success. So, let me start with some factual striking statistics which you wouldn't believe that is that exists. Did you know that 60% of international business deals fail due to communication breakdowns? And even more surprisingly, only 7% of your message, your information, your whatever information for your deal is conveyed through your words, while a massive 93% comes from your body language and how you say it and through your nonverbal skills basically. So let me break down that nonverbal 93% of communication, has how it impacts. So 38% of communications is known for your vocal tone and how you deliver it, while 55% is your body language and your nonverbal cues, uh, where you pause, how you respect, and so on. And did you also know that cultural misunderstandings cost businesses billions annually? It's another fun fact for you to think about. So think about it. You could have the perfect proposal, but if your tone is wrong, or your body language sends a conflicting signal, or you have a cultural difference and the cultural signals don't align together, that could collapse your deal before you even realized what happened. So today, I'm going to teach you what to do and the do's and the don'ts of communicating in an international business negotiation. So let's get into the next slide. The cultural communication barriers. The communication operates on two levels: the visible element and the hidden elements. So, visible elements, the words we speak, and the formal protocols, the procedures we can see and we can learn about easily. Those are known as visible elements. So, the hidden elements are nonverbal patterns, the cultural values, the unspoken social rules, and the deep footed historical influence that shapes how people really communicate in those different cultures, different countries, and so on. So, successful negotiators must master both of these levels to have a successful business negotiation in international business. So, let's start with the verbal foundation. There are four key principles you need to know. First is language precision and avoid you need to avoid idioms, slang, and uh, different cultural references. Instead of saying like let's touch base, say let's schedule a follow-up meeting. Your The clever faces phrases you make might not be translated properly in a different culture, so you need to take those into consideration and be mindful on those scenarios. So, secondly, your tone and the pace of how you talk. Like in German, negotiators might prefer quick and efficient delivery of your message or your speaking or whatever you have to say, while countries like Japan and Japanese counterparts might need a slow and more contemplative pacing that you need to adjust accordingly to their social backgrounds and differences as well. Thirdly, active listening. This is not just nodding along and using verbal confirmations if I understand you correctly, or let me clarify this shows, or using let me clarify, this shows respect and prevents a lot of misunderstandings that could happen. So always try to clarify if you didn't understand what the other person, your partner says, you clarify it, and then can I clarify this with you, or and get an understanding instead of with a misunderstanding in your mind. Fourth is strategic silence. Here's where it gets interesting. Like in Japan, silence means respect and contemplation of what you all just spoke about. But in Germany and countries like that, it signals like a disagreement, like you're silent because you don't agree with me. And in more interestingly, in Middle East countries, it indicates like authority or showing that you know more than them, so you're staying silent. So you need to know your audience beforehand, before you get into these negotiations, and handle yourself accordingly. This leads us to a crucial concept, that is high context versus low context cultures. High context cultures like Japan, Arab countries, and Latin American region rather. So they rely on heavily on indirect communications, like silence carry a meaning. Relationship building comes before the business. They prefer to have more relationship with you more than talking about business, to have that partnership beforehand. They value that more than the presentation or whatever you have to say. And the real negotiations might happen during a dinner or social convention than in a conference room in those types of cultures. So whereas low context cultures like Germany, Scandinavia, and USA, they prefer a direct communication approach where facts and logic is dominated more. And they prefer facts and logic, and they consider time is money. So they the efficiency is kin for them, and nothing else matters. And they prefer business before relationship. They don't really care about having a partnership or building a relationship with you. They just care about the business. If the business is not there, they are not interested. So understanding this distinct differences can help your save your deal. So you need to prepare before getting into these. Let's move on to our language barriers and solutions. Here are some common challenges we face. Like words may sound similar but have different meanings, different terminology in different industries. The translation and interpretation can be different from what you say and how you say it. Pronunciation and your accent varies from country to country, and it's different in different cultures. As solutions, we can use professional interpreters for intense, the high, highly intense negotiations, and always confirm your understanding through clarification. You can always ask you, can I, let me clarify this with you? Is this okay? Is this not okay? Always double confirm for yourself. It's better. Use multilingual definitions for important terms, and don't go to use idioms or slang or stuff like that. Speak slowly and clearly by avoid using complex sentences, like big sentences with huge words in it, it doesn't mean much if they don't understand what you're saying. So use small words, and clear understanding should be made top priority. So now let's talk about that non-verbal communications, which can make or break your negotiation, which is a crucial factor of the of your meeting. Basically, even though non-verbal communication exceeds the spoken language, it varies significantly between different cultures. These non-verbal communications have the power to support, dispute, or entirely change the meaning of the spoken language. The words you have said, the way you conduct yourself can impact that and change the entire meaning of what you say and what you do. So the key factors like maintaining eye contact, hand gestures, and body language, and personal space, professional appearance, and environment factors play a big role in nonverbal communication, as shown on screen. Let's get take a closer look into these factors. Like eye contact is your first challenge in Western countries, cultures. Direct eye contact shows confidence and honesty on to your partner, business partner, or whatever. It shows that you have honest confidence and you are an honest person. Like look away, and it might seem a bit deceptive for them. Those kind of cultures, like but in Asian cultures, intense eye contact with authority figures is considered aggressive and disrespectful as well. In Middle Eastern cultures, it's completely different. Eye contact has protocols that vary dramatically based on gender and social hierarchy. So you have to always, it's best to research on the cultures and the differences beforehand, before the meetings or before you go there or whatever. So let's get into hand gestures, which becomes your second challenge in nonverbal communication. The thumbs up uh, is positive in Western cultures, but it's considered offensive in Middle Eastern cultures. Even the OK sign, it means money in Japan, but it's a highly offensive sign in Brazil, countries like Brazil and France. Even nodding your head means no in Bulgaria and Albania. Basically, my advice is keep your hand gestures to a minimal, and culturally be neutral with your hand gestures, and it won't mislead anything else if you keep your hand gestures to a low, because everything has a different meaning in different cultures. Thirdly, we go into personal space, which varies again drastically, like in Nordic and German negotiators, they prefer 4 to 6 feet of a distance between each other, while Mediterranean and Latin cultures are comfortable with 2 to 3 feet, and even some light physical contact, nothing major, just like handshake or whatever. But in East Asian countries, they prefer a formal distance, which is considered 3 to 5 feet is considered a formal distance with minimal contact. They prefer deep bows. In Sri Lanka, we prefer the Ayubowan signal instead of handshakes. And if you violate these invisible boundaries, it it creates a bit of a discomfort, and it changes the trust they have in you, and Like it shows that you have not prepared for this from the get go. And get into next, time perception can derail negotiations before they will begin. Like time perception can be twofold again, as to monochronic cultures and polychronic cultures. Monochronic cultures like Germany, Switzerland, USA, they prefer time linearly and punctuality is crucial. Like meetings have agendas, and you have to stick to the agenda. You don't. There is no more beyond the agenda. There is no less of the agenda. It's always pre-planned, and there's a kind of a sequality into it, which if you show up late, you have already lost the credibility with them. So in the polychronic cultures like Spain, Italy, Middle Eastern cultures, they are more flexible on time interpretation. They, because mainly they are focused on relationships more than business, like I said before as well. So they are comfortable with multitasking and process oriented. Uh, if you rush that kind of those cultures, if you rush them, it will backfire. So you have to know your audience as well, and of course, being punctual is always better than being late. It's always better to be at least 10 to 15 minutes earlier. It's but it shows a better, how much of a better preparation you have of yourself, and how much you value the other person's time as well. Let's move on to professional appearance. Your professional appearance speaks before you do. Like when you walk into a room, that's your first impression. Before you can say anything else, it's how you present yourself that matters. The universally safe code is the conservative business attire, which is considered universally safe. However, colors carry different meanings in different cultures. So it's always best to research the local dress codes and understand their religious sensitivities, and remember that status conscious cultures. Remember that in status conscious cultures, quality and brand perception is matters significantly more than other cultures as well. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Is your business partner in a culture that considers the status conscious? Like, is he a brand going behind brands, or is he does that culture look into the brand, what you wear, or what how it presents? Meeting protocols and recognizing hierarchy. Meeting protocols matter enormously in formal cultures like Japan, South Korea. Introductions happen on rank and seniority. Business cards are exchanged, like ceremoniously. It's an exchange of business cards, and seating is designated, and the speaking order is predetermined. Like there is an order, certain order. Things happen like in Japan and South Korea. Like they have, when you walk into a meeting room, they have a order where they are going to take you, introduce you to people, and they sit you on your designated chairs, and then there's a order in starting the meeting as well. But in egalitarian cultures like Scandinavia and Australia, the introductions are more informal than formal. and they get onto the first name basis quickly because they prefer like they prefer being open than having closed and being more formal. So the discussions also are more open and speaking of opportunities based on your merits and your seniority as well. And if you violate these protocols that certain cultures have, you'll disrupt the entire dynamic of your negotiation. Right? In a formal culture, if you go to speak before you're supposed to speak, then they're like, okay, why are you doing that? There is a certain way you should speak, and there is a certain order. So building trust through communications. Trust is the currency of business, international business. We can build it through consistency that aligns your words, your body language, and your actions. All should align into one way. Like you say something, you do that. Yeah, and that's it. That's consistency. Then we have transparency, where you share your information while recognizing and respecting the boundary line as well. You can't share every single detail, but up to the boundary, you should be transparent and share and be open with your partner, business partner. Reliability, meet where you meet commitments and respond within appropriate time frames. Where you're, and if they have an issue, they can talk to you at appropriate time. And you have to be reliable as a person, as a businessman, and so on and so forth. Cultural respect, that shows your awareness and your adaptation to the different cultures and how you respect those local communications and communities, and all that also comes into a big part, plays a big role when it comes to building trust with business partners in different cultures. Common mistakes that happen during communications is assuming critical mistakes are like assuming your communication style is universal. Like the way you communicate is not the same way everybody communicates. So if you assume that your communication style is universal, that's a big deal breaker for most people. Like it shows you're arrogant and you know you're a different kind of person. Using humor, sarcasm, or idioms that don't translate properly into the whatever way into what you want to say is actually not what's going to be interpreted. So always best not to use humor or sarcasm or idioms in business negotiations because it's not a it's not a basic social event. It's a business negotiations. You have to have that formality as well. Interrupting or rushing your partners or and ignoring non-verbal feedback. Like if you do something wrong, for example, you go to Japan, your Japanese partner bows and you extend your hand for a handshake. That is so that is one point where you have ignored the cultural difference basically, and someone would tell you, "Okay, this is not how you should do it, this is wrong." So then you have to take that feedback into you. So then when you're leaving again, then you shouldn't make that mistake. If you do that mistake, it shows that you have ignored the feedback you have got. Failing to research basic cultural etiquettes. Like I said, like Japan has a lot of cultural etiquettes. Japan, South Korea, and countries like that. So always best to research what are the etiquettes, what are the cultural differences, how you should communicate, and what you should avoid communicating alongside. So A big mistake is if you don't do your research into your business partner's culture. These small mistakes can end your potentially successful negotiations instant in an instant. So always try to go the extra mile and do the research and be prepared before you walk into these meetings. Technology and virtual communications. In the new age of technology, these are a few challenges that can impact communications, not always, but could impact communications, like rise in video call conferences and technological issues may rise up. Your email tone might be misinterpreted, and change in time zones and scheduling of these meetings. Then your digital body language and how signal and your signal difficulties that might be there. Sharing of screens and presentation preferences, like all these can be a big challenge when you go to do it virtually. It's not like you're meeting the person in person and doing. It's much different than doing it virtually. And as better practices, we can always test the technology beforehand and have alternatives which will, you can avoid these other discomforts that might arise during all these. And allow give extra time, like say if the meeting starts at 4 o'clock, you give a extra 10 to 15 minutes, because these technical adjustments need to happen, could happen. And use clear and simple language in emails is the easy way to avoid misinterpretations of your emails, your structure of your email. Follow up virtual meetings with written meeting minutes for more clarification and understanding of what you just spoke about or what happened during the meeting. That's always a good practice to have, to keep meeting minutes. Conflict conflicts can happen in any capacity, big or small. So here are a few sorry resolution strategies you can use, you can implement in your negotiations as well. And this can happen with the internationally or locally or whatever way. It's just a heads up for you, like, you know so direct confirmation, where you can address the issue immediately and discuss while agreeing on steps for resolution, and take those steps clearly. Preserving harmony, the use of indirect communications and face saving solutions, which help maintain the dignity of the relationship. Like you indirectly communicate with them and solve it out under the table, or I don't know how you can say that. And hierarchical resolution, deferring to senior authority figures to discuss the and resolve the conflict the if the lower end can't handle it, or if the conflict is major. If it's a major conflict, then you should always go to the hierarchy and say, this is the issues we're having. So you need to talk to the other business partners set hierarchical side, and find a solution and solve it, solve the conflict accordingly. Then co- consensus building consensus building, sorry if I got that wrong. This is a way for all stakeholders to be involved in the decision making and the reach and like all the stakeholders, like employees can give their opinions, and it, this discussion happens in groups, kind of, where your managers, your understaff, underlines would go get the different opinions and bring them all together, put them, and then you all reach one agreement. That's more of a, I would say, the employees and employers all hands on, kind of gets involved and gets it done, kind of a deal. Reading the room and the group dynamic of the meeting is a very very key observation you need to have when you enter a room. It's important that you identify the real decision makers that are there, recognize where when a private conference needs a break, or you need to have a small private meeting with the other business partner alone without the other staff around them. And then understanding, you need to understand the cultural signals for agreements, disagreements, and confusion. Always always verbally clarify, is if you have any confusions or whatever you need. And one key aspect is to notice the fatigue or the frustration changes that could happen during a meeting, on the communication style will change during these moments. So when somebody is like frustrated and not comfortable, then the deal, you know, they're not that going to be that happy with whatever you have to say. Like they are in discomfort basically. So you need to detect when cultural misunderstandings happen but are not addressed as well. It happens both ways. So you need to address it at some point and say, okay, this is wrong. Don't do that, or let's work around it, or whatever. You become a cultural anthropologist during successful international business discussions. That's the best way to become a good negotiator in the international business platform. You have to be a cultural anthropologist to be able to know this, the differences in the different cultures and all. And that's like main thing you need to focus on later on, once you get everything in order. So yes, here are we have a few practices you can implement before and during negotiations. Before negotiation, the preparation process I put into 4 points. Number one being research cultural communications norms and business practices. Like I said, always do your research, do your homework on your business partner's culture, his communication styles, differences, and all that comes to account, comes to matter at the end. Number two, prepare culturally appropriate materials and presentation formats. Like, don't use misleading stuff, or use this sarcasm into your presentations, or all that. You need to make it culturally appropriate in both ways and professional. So number three, identify potential communication barriers and have solutions for them. Like, you have to identify the where it might go wrong and what you need to do in case it goes wrong. What is the solution you have for that? Number four, plan flexibility for different cultural times and process expectations. You have to have the flexibility, should be there with, if you're dealing with international business, with the time differences and the expectations, needs of the other, of your business partner. These are four key points you need to have before you go into a negotiation. This is how you prepare the key points. And during the negotiation, another 4 points you need to observe and adapt to the local communication preferences. You don't assume like what you say should be okay doesn't mean anything for them. Yeah, because they have their different communicational preference, you have your own preference. So if you are going to them, you have to observe and adapt to their preference. Likewise, if they come to you, they will observe and adapt to your preference. You need to confirm understandings frequently through appropriate methods. Like I said, always clarify if you have any misunderstandings. If you didn't understand what the other person says, you need to clarify it with them, double check, so that when you do that, you avoid a lot of mistakes or whatever that can happen. Remain patient with different decision making and communications. You have to always have patience when you deal with different decision makers. Like they, not everybody is going to look at things the way you do, so you have to have patience. You have to communicate. If you have a different style, you have to communicate that with them, and then you both come to an agreement. Okay, or meet in the middle or whatever, come to an agreement in the end. Number four, you need to show respect for cultural protocols and hierarchy structures. Like different cultures, that the reason they have protocols is for you to adhere to those protocols. If not, they won't have protocols. So if you go to the Buckingham Palace, there are protocols for you to talk to the Queen or the King or whoever. So, and there's a hierarchical structure as well. You, just because you walk in, you can't go and speak to this person, or you have to speak to the main one. Then, like that, these will be given to you prior to meetings most of the time. If there are protocols and structures, so you have to remember those and study those as well. Key takeaways and action steps. So there's a few points that I have highlighted as essential principles for success. Effective communication requires cultural intelligence and adaptability. Nonverbal signals often carry more weight than spoken words in international context. Building relationships through appropriate communications creates sustainable business advantages. And finally, continuous learning and cultural sensitivity driven drive long-term international success. So these are good principles you can have for your international negotiations. It will be successful if you integrate them into your negotiation styles. So a few four action steps that you can implement immediately, I would say, is if you are going to an international negotiation. Number one will be assess your current cultural communication competencies. Like you need to study, and even if you don't have an international negotiation meeting, it's good for you to know the different communication styles in different cultures. So always try to study those and keep them in your mind. So you spontaneously, if you meet somebody in a different culture, or so a businessman, and you spontaneously start talking about business, you have that in your hand. You know, okay, this person is from this kind of a culture, so I need to avoid these steps. So it's always good to learn and have those in your back pocket. Number two, develop relationships with cultural advisors in key markets. So in businesses, we have key markets where we are dependent on. Like if I am, for example, my main business transactions happen within Japan, then I should have somebody in Japan who and build a develop relationship with that person and understand the differences in the cultures. That person would advise me, okay, so these cultures have different styles, different parts have different cultures as well. So that person will help you understand, and that's also a good way to develop your cultural cultural relationship skills kind of. Number three, practice active observation skills in multicultural business settings. And number four, implement communication protocols for international activities. You have yourself, if you implement a protocol for yourself, like your own business, for international business meetings and all that, so you can give the protocol to them. This is my cultural background. This is how I handle myself. This is how I communicate. So then they know what to avoid with you and how to talk with you as well. So successful international negotiations require mastering both of the science and the art of cross cultural communications. I would say the investment in cultural intelligence will pay dividends in every global business relationship you build. So always try to take the extra mile. It's always good to have in your back pocket to have an understanding of different cultures. So I will end with a quote, as Peter Drucker says: the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. Remember, successful international negotiations come from reading between the lines and recognizing the unspoken values and hidden concerns, the cultural awareness, and the respect, along with the overall preparation for the meeting or negotiation or whatever. So always try to go the extra mile, do the research, do the preparations you need to do, and be aware and be aware and do good. Thank you. I hope I helped you understand the mastering the of the verbal and non-verbal communications in business, international business negotiations. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your attentive participation. Have a good day.